Hi, in this Unity tutorial, we're going to place a cube in the scene and we're going to move it using the keys on the keyboard. So the movement commands we're going to use are going to be translate commands. So first we start off with a new scene, as you see here, and it has a camera and a light. And we're going to add in some game objects, which are 3D objects. We're going to add in a plane, and that's just so we can have some perspective of something to move against. And what I'm doing here is I'm moving the scene's eye, looking at it from different angles, and the way you do that easily is you hold down the Alt key, which turns the icon into an eyeball, and then you move it by holding the mouse left button and dragging the mouse left button around. Okay. Now up here in the corner, there's an axis that says the x-axis, the z-axis, that's the floor, and the y-axis is up and down from the floor. When I added the plane in, over here in the inspector window, we have its transform, its location in the scene, and I'm going to just reset that. Reset, and it moves the transform of the plane to 0, 0, 0. That's the center of the scene. All right, I'm going to add now my second object is the cube, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to reset it to the center of the scene. The cube's a little bit inside the ground here, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the Y and pull it up a little. So this ability to pull up the cube with the Y-axis, that's controlled over here. So if I click on this icon that looks like cross, that's the movement icon. If I click on this icon, that's the rotate, and I can pick one of the axes. If I rotate along the Z, that'll be the blue rotation circle. If I pick the red line, that's rotating along the X. And if I pick the green, that'll be rotating along the Y. So just put things back the way I was again. I'm just going to reset and move it up again. Okay, that's step one. I have my objects in the scene. Now I want to control the movement of the cube. So now I'm going to have to do some code. So to do code, I'm going to add code to the cube object. And when we add code, we're basically going to use scripts. So down at the bottom of the add component, there is the script key, and I could type in a name for my script. I'll call it cube script. You can call it whatever you want. I press the create add button at the bottom of that. And then here goes the cube script is added right here. And now I have a file in my project, CubeScript, which will show all the files in my project here. So I have one file. Now I want to edit the cube script. I could either double click on it here, or I could have cube selected and double click on it in the inspector window right here. And then it'll open it up inside Visual Studio, Microsoft Visual Studio. This is where we're going to do some C# code. So this is what you get when you first create a script. It's kind of like an empty shell. There's nothing there yet, but two events, start and update. So the comment here says update is called once per frame. So if you ever heard of frame rate when you have a video game, that's how fast it could draw the screen per minute, how many times it draws the screen per minute. So in 1 minute, 60 frames per second is pretty good. 30 frames per second is acceptable. Anyway, so here we're going to have some code. And basically what we want to do is for every frame we want to pick up if the user is pressing a key on the keyboard. Okay, we're going to use the keys on the keyboard to detect if we want to move the cube in a direction or not. So there's classes for that. Let me just do one more thing I like to do. Start and update. These are private in scope, and you don't have to put the word private there. You don't have to, but I'm going to put it there because I like being clear about what each function's scope is, like well kids see it. Anyway, so these are really private functions. I put the word private there to be explicit. And now I'm going to say if, and there's a class in Unity called input, which reads from different input devices. And here's, once I press the period, it shows me all the functions that the input class has. And I'm looking for the one that's called getKey right here, getKey. And getKey, if I hold my mouse over it, it shows actually the description for it. It says getKey returns a Boolean. That means true or false. Returns true when the user holds down the key identified by the name. So I'm going to use this function getKey. I double clicked on it. And I open the parentheses, and it shows me here that the parameter it wants is a key code. So I'm going to type key code. Whoopsie. Key code dot. And now these are all the different keys that you could press on the keyboard, and they're kind of named out for you. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start typing the key I'm looking for, which is the up arrow. And you see how up arrow appeared? I could either click it here or finish typing it. So if input get key from the keyboard equals the up key, let me just put this in here. If that equals true, meaning that the user is pressing it, then I'm going to do something. I'm going to move the cube. Since this script, let me press save. When the star is showing, the script is not saved. I've just typed stuff here, but it hasn't saved to your hard drive yet. So I'm going to save it. This is the cube, and since the script is on the cube object, when I use the word this in the script, that's referring to the cube. Okay, so this is cube dot transform dot I want to do a translation, not a translation of a language, but a translation of its position. And there's a number of functions it could take here, 1 through 6, you see. And first one I give it a vector, second one I give it a vector and a relative to, and this one I give it an x, y, and z. All right, I'm going to do this one. I'm going to use the x, y, and z one. So on the x-axis, when I press the up arrow, I'm not going to move, so I'm going to put 0. On the y-axis, I'm not going to move. And then on the z-axis, if you look back to this window here, the z-axis is the blue, and the blue arrow, this is forward, and this is backward. So that, I'm going to move it by 1, okay? And then I just put a semicolon. I'm going to save that. Then I'm going to go back to Unity. And there's this little hourglass spinning in the bottom right of the status bar. But now if I press play, we've been looking in the scene window. When I press play, the game goes into play mode. And it'll switch to the game view. Now the game view doesn't look like my scene view. Let me just switch back. I go to scene, and the game view doesn't look like my scene view because the camera is over here looking straight this way. What I'm going to do is I want to set the camera to look just the way it does in the scene view. So I'm going to pick the camera, game object, align with view. Okay, and now here's the preview with camera sees. It's looking at it just the way it looks in the scene view. They both match up. All right, now I'm going to press play, and you can see now when it goes to the game window, it has the same position. Now let's see if the keyboard is working. I'm going to press the up arrow on my key. Whoa! And the thing just shot off real fast. Let me press it again in case you guys missed that. I'm going to press play. I'm going to press down the key, and it just shot off really fast. I could control that. That has to do with the fact that this update window calls whatever, like 60 times a second. If I hold down the up key, that thing just moved 60 times in 1 second. And maybe that is going to be faster on my computer than it is on yours. Or if you have a faster computer, it will be even faster. I want to make it the same speed on everybody's computer. So I go back into the script window, which I could just do by, again, double clicking on the script. And here in the translate command, instead of just saying 1.0f, I'm going to multiply that by time.delta time. Okay, and time.delta time is, just think of it this way. Time, this is a class in the Unity engine, and delta time is how much time has changed. If I have a measurement to translate by and I multiply it by time delta time, it's going to move at the same speed on everybody's computer, no matter if it's an old computer and it's slow, or if it's a computer of the future and it's faster than I ever could have imagined. So with that there, I have to save my script. See, it has that little star. So I'm going to save the script, and the star goes away, it's saved. And I come over here and I press play again. Wait for it to switch to the game window. The game finishes starting up. And then I press the arrow. Now I'm holding down the arrow and it's moving that fast. Okay? So that's the speed. The speed is something I could control with this number over here, 1. So I'm going to show you something. Inside the inspector window, I could have a little box here so the user could like type in the speed and play with it without having to go here in the code and find everywhere there was a 1. The way I make something new show up in that box in the inspector window is I make a public variable, public float. It's a float because I have the .0, and I'm going to call it speed. Well, let me say my move speed. I'm going to have it equal to 1 by default. Okay. Now with that there, I could use the variable move speed. I'm going to right click and I'm going to copy that variable, and I'm going to highlight the 1.0f and I'm going to paste that there. So move speed equals 1, and then down here in this function for translate, I just use the variable move speed. Okay, let me save it, and then I go back to play. Wait for it to go to game. Waiting. Okay, so now it's in the game view. Now I'm going to press the up, and it's moving at 1. And if you look over here in the cube script in the inspector window, you scroll down to cube script, and there's a value of 1. I could change that value to 5 if I wanted to. I could change the value right here, and then I could click back in the game window and press my up arrow, and it moves faster. Okay, so that's moving forward. Now I could also add in for moving backwards, else if this.getKey keycode dot down arrow equals true, then I'll just move backward. Why does this have a little squiggly? If you're typing code and you have this little red squiggly, you typed something wrong. And I think it's because I said this, and it's really the input class that has the getKey function there. Now there's no squigglies. Alright, so if they press the down arrow, this.transform.Translate the position 0, 0, minus move speed. So making it negative goes in the other direction. Delta time. Okay. No squigglies. Press save. Go back over here, and if you look, move speed equals 1 again. Let's say I liked 5, so I'm going to put 5 in there. Now, if I change the value to 5 when the game isn't playing, 5 is going to be remembered every time I press play. So here I press play, and I'm going to go forward, and I should be able to press the down arrow, go backward. Okay, cool. So I guess I could add moving left and right, but I'm going to take the opportunity for left and right to do turning. Input.GetKey key code dot left arrow equals true. Then this dot transform dot. So if I want to turn, I use the command rotate. Rotate. See how it shows up there? Rotate, and let's see if rotate takes something like X, Y, and Z. So looking down, it takes X, Y, and Z. Yeah, it does. All right, so I'm gonna use that. So which angle do we want to rotate around? Remember, the Y is the green. The Y is the green. We want to rotate around Y. So here in the command for rotate, let me find the function again I had. Was this one, X, Y, and Z. So X is going to be 0, Y, we're talking about angles here, and there's 360 of them. I'm going to say 20.0F as a float. And then for the Z, I'm not going to rotate around Z. And then, boop, semicolon, in that command. And let's just check to see if that works. I press save, and I go back to Unity, and I press play. And when it switches to the game window, it starts. So come on, switch to the game window. Okay, press the left arrow, and man, that thing is flying. It's just, see that? It's like rotating super fast. So what do we do? What do we do, guys? Remember, we're going to have to do the same thing we did here. We multiplied times time delta time times time dot delta time. Now let's see what happens. Boom, press play, switch to game. Boom, 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 boom. Come on, switch to game. And I press, now that's how fast 20 turns. Now say I want to play around, like the way I put in the cube script, I put this little property move speed. I'm going to add another property. So properties have to be public variables. Public float turn speed equals, I had 20, that's really kind of slow. I'm going to try 45. 45 is my default. And I'm saying default because that means that the variable is going to show in Unity with a value, but of course you could change that value and save the project, and it's going to remember that value instead. Because you see here I had move speed set to 1, but every time I go back to Unity, move speed over here was 5 in the cube script in the inspector window. And just give it a second, it's updating to show in the inspector window turn speed. See? Turn speed, 45. So I could do the same thing. Any values in the property window I could change. I could play with them as the game is in play. So I could see N45. Feels like that's slow too. Let me try 90. Oops, 90, 90, and then click back in the game window. And now use the keys. You know why it's not changing the speed? Let me press stop. Because I made the variable turn speed over here, but I didn't use it in the rotate command. So here in the rotate command, I got to replace the 20 with turn speed. Okay. Let's see if that worked. We're kind of going through, like, these are the kind of problems that happen when you're coding. You may forget to change something, you may forget to do something. So I'm just actually going through our view, like how you think about solving it. So I press play, and yeah, that's a different speed. All right, so that works for turning left. Now just add in the turning to the right. Else if Input.GetKey, and then it wants a key code dot, and it's going to be right arrow. Yeah, see, there's right arrow. Doop, doop, right there. Press enter. Right arrow equals true. And I'm going to do brackets. No, not brackets. These guys. Okay. I'll say this dot transform. I press enter. Rotate. I can press enter. And then this will be 0, comma, minus turn speed times time dot delta time 0. Okay. And what's this? This isn't 0, that's his object. Okay, press 0. Oh, let me leave that as a, say I mistyped this over here and I typed, you know, blah, okay, just some crazy letters there. 1, it's going to show a squiggly line. I'm going to save that. And 2, with that wrong typing thing over here, when I go to Unity, if you look at this bottom status bar of the Unity window right here in the bottom, you see how you got this this red exclamation point and it says there's an error, and it tells you, it kind of tries to help you by telling you what it thinks is wrong. It says the name blah blah does not exist in the current context. Yeah, it's not a variable to it. Now let me double click on this status line where it shows the error. I'll take my mouse and double click on that, and it'll take me to the part of the code where the error is, highlighting the whole line. And then hopefully there's something on that line like this red squiggly here that'll help me figure it out, that I should have typed a 0. Press save. Now when I go back, okay, there's no red exclamation mark. So let me press play. And now I should be able to move forward and backward, should be able to turn left and right. I turn left, and then that's forward. I turn, and then that's forward. And could I turn? Oh, I'm going off the screen, come back. I went off the screen. But there you go. That's what this tutorial wanted to cover, and we did. We controlled the cube by using the input class to read the keyboard, and then the transform of the cube, which matches up with the transform up here. And when you want to change the position, you use translate. When you want to change the rotations, you use rotate. Okay? Thanks, guys.